this team could come out of the East. I do think they need to break out a lot of things right for it to happen, but the potential is there.
Let's move to the Miami Heat now, Morten. We got to start. Obviously, they bring in Kyle Lowry. Perfect fit for Heat culture, right? So
yep.
let's go into how do you think he's going to fit with Jimmy, Bam in particular?
I love the fit. I mean, one thing we know about Kyle is over the past, I want to say half decade, he really improved as a three-point shooter. And not just in terms of accuracy, also just distance, right? I mean, he is a guy who can drain those 27-footers here and there. So the range is something that spaces the floor even more, which is something that the Heat sorely need when they're starting both Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. I think his fit with Butler in particular is great. So Butler can play in the post, he can play in the mid-range area. He loves to attack the basket. So if Kyle just positions himself on the strong side of the ball where Jimmy is, like, how can you justify doubling Jimmy and leave Kyle open on the perimeter? I don't think you can. So if you position it that way and you have Duncan Robinson on the weak side just moving away from the play, I mean, teams will almost be forced to single coverage Jimmy Butler in the post or from like 10 feet and in. Good luck with that. Like, that's not going to work out well for you. Like, then you could argue, well, what about Bam? Because then Bam's man is going to come over and double. Maybe Bam's guy is going to just move. Yeah, you know what? This is the year I expect Bam to take a major leap as well. Like, just in terms of the shooting potential. So everything is kind of like this pearls on a string, right? Where everything works together. And Kyle unlocks all of it. Like, his dynamic shooting, his playmaking, his ability to take over when Jimmy isn't on the floor and be the ball handler, to make decisions and be the primary passer. I just love the fit. Do I think overall that the national media has become a little bit too high on the Heat? Yes, I do. But that's not to say that those expectations couldn't become a reality. I mean, theoretically, this team could come out of the East. I do think they need to break out a lot of things right for it to happen, but the potential is there. Yeah,
I mean, Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler defensively as well.
Yes.
Like, hell, Adebayo as well. Like, that's where I think this team is going to make its money. Like, I don't know that they're going to have a top 5 offense, but they are going to be effing annoying to play against.
Yeah.
Like, Lowry, Butler, Bam, PJ Tucker as well, Markieff Morris, like, they're just going to be the most punchable team in the NBA. Like, definitely lead the league in technical fouls drawn.
Yeah. So the PJ Tucker thing, I mean, oh boy, like, you know how I feel about PJ, like, guys who can't score at all. And I wonder if he's the right piece for them in the starting lineup. Like, I'm not saying he can't have a very nice role there, but we have seen the Heat go through a lot of offensive lulls. We really have. And I just don't think PJ is going to help in that regard. So I think it's crucial that they have a backup plan ready, that when they go through these periods, then PJ is like out of there and he's replaced in some other capacity. Now, when everything is clicking, and like if Jimmy's got his game going, Kyle's got the outside game going, Bam is like doing his thing on the inside, sure. Play PJ for defensive purposes, great. And like for him to spot up at the corners, awesome, go for it. But they need to have some sort of angle and some sort of backup plan for when things aren't falling, because you just can't play him 25 to 28 minutes per game if you don't have a consistent offensive game plan or offensive execution rather in place.
Well, I would guess that Markieff Morris would be the alternative option there. I assume I'm not going to ask the same starting lineup question with Charlotte and Atlanta, because Jimmy's locked, Adebayo is locked, Kyle Lowry's locked, Duncan Robinson is locked. So, it's going to be Lowry, Robinson, Butler, 1, 2, 3, or whatever, Robinson, Butler, interchangeable 2, 3. The 4, I think, is the one question. It's going to be probably PJ Tucker versus Markieff Morris. They have KZ Okpala as well. I don't think he's a real threat to start for them, although, whereas Atlanta goes 12 deep in terms of rotation players, Miami is so top heavy because they had to create cap space to get Kyle Lowry. You've got Butler, Adebayo, Lowry, Robinson, PJ Tucker, Tyler Herro, Markieff Morris, Dwayne Dedmon, Victor Oladipo if he stays healthy, but that is just the biggest if. And then after that, it's like a lot of young, somewhat unproven guys in Opala, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. Udonis Haslem is going to have his ceremonial, player coach role off the bench. Omer Yurtseven, who looked really good in Summer League, but these guys don't have a ton of NBA experience. So this is not a team where if they sustain a couple injuries, it's like, oh, okay, we'll just plug and play Bogdan Bogdanovic in here. It's like, no, we're going to lean on Max Strus, who we had to lean on.
He can shoot, though.
I know. I'm not out on these guys because they got a lot of experience last year as COVID ravaged the Heat for a while. And the Heat kind of stayed afloat with them. But, I think that is one of the potential weak spots for Miami, especially compared to some, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Atlanta in the East in particular go so deep that if they have a couple injuries, it's like, as long as it's not to Giannis or Kevin Durant, like they'll still survive. Whereas, even if a player like Duncan Robinson goes down, you have Tyler Herro, and then you have very little shot creation off the bench unless Oladipo stays healthy.
I have a hot take, or I don't think it's a hot take necessarily.
Oh boy.
But I think no. Well, you brought up like the backup power forward situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the guy that they bring in to replace PJ in those lineups is Herro, and then they slide Jimmy to the 4.
Interesting.
Because I think that it's that time. He is 32 now.
Yeah.
He is strong as an ox.
And he refuses to shoot 3-pointers, or he shouldn't ever shoot 3-pointers.
He's not a great free throw shooter. He's great at getting to the foul line, like utter elite. He's got one of the greatest passing visions of any wing in the NBA as well. Mm-hmm. Like it just makes sense in those situations, like when the team needs a little bit of an offensive injection, like that you have Kyle, Herro, Duncan, Jimmy, and Bam. I think that's their best offensive lineup by far.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be shocked to see them go with that for a significant chunk of time here and there. Assuming, of course, Jimmy doesn't go AD and saying, no, I don't want to play a certain position because that's not, but I don't think he will. I think Jimmy's like, I'm just a basketball player. Let's go hoop. But I would love to see Jimmy as like a small ball playmaking 4 who could defend. Like, and some will say, well, can he really guard guys who are 6'10"? Yeah, because nobody scores in the post anymore. Like, that's not really a thing. And even if they try to, dude is 6'8", 235, and he is strong as hell. Like, good luck trying to score on Jimmy Butler. I don't care who you are. Good luck.
Yeah, like posting up Jimmy Butler is not a recipe for success unless you're like Embiid or Jokic or someone like that.
Correct, right?
In which case, Adebayo is going to be guarding those guys anyway.
God, you got me good.
Yeah. No, you're totally right, though. I mean, like, that's the thing. Miami's depth concerns me, but if you get into the playoffs with everyone healthy, you're totally right that a lineup of Lowry, Robinson, Herro, Butler, and Adebayo, that is just pure flamethrower.
Yeah.
And again, like the depth behind them concerns me because if you move Herro into that mix, like you need Oladipo to stay healthy off the bench because otherwise it's going to be PJ Tucker, Markieff Morris, and these young kids. Like there is not a lot there. It wouldn't surprise me if Miami is active either on the buyout market.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be on the buyout market because they don't really have the salaries to trade other than PJ Tucker. But yeah, I mean, like you can see if everyone is healthy once the playoffs start, I could definitely see that team giving trouble, especially to a smaller lineup. Like I think they match up better against Brooklyn than they will Milwaukee because they still don't have a great answer. Like Giannis cracked them last year. He figured it out. And, Drew Holiday is there now. Chris Middleton's there. They like Drew against Kyle Lowry, Chris Middleton against Butler. And that's going to choke off your main offensive options.
Yeah.
But against Brooklyn, if you can throw Lowry on Kyrie, Butler probably on Harden, and then Adebayo on KD.
Yeah.
That actually, I could see Miami coming out of that series if everything breaks right for them and if they stay healthy.
people don't realize how well Butler has defended Harden in the past. That's why I've been one of those guys, one of the very few people to say I think Butler overall has a larger in-game imprint than Harden. I mean, the defense is so utterly elite, and like he's close to Gab in terms of the playmaking. And I don't know, man. I could see this team going really far, but at the same time, you kind of alluded to it. There's just that other side of the coin with the lack of depth, right? The lack of shooting as well. Like that is still a concern for me. Even if you do roll out the lineup that I just talked about, where you have Kyle, Duncan, Herro as your primary 3-point shooter, that's great. All three guys could like hit 3 per game, but you could cheat off of Jimmy. You can cheat off of Bam unless Bam finally takes that step and goes, you know what? Let me hit that 3 ball. Let me just take a couple per game.
Yeah.
Because it's about time now. I trust his shot. Look at his free throw shooting. Look at his shot release. Like, take the damn shot, Bam. It's there. Like, how many times during the playoffs did we see him just turn down those 15-foot shots? And I realize that Jimmy doesn't help the situation in when he's going, dunk on people, Bam.
Right.
No, that's not how it works. Like, you need to have that shot in your back, but he does. He just doesn't take it, and it's infuriating because, like, like when we really look at it, Brian, completely honest here. When you look at the centers around the NBA, who has a more pure-looking release than Bam outside? Like, a couple may, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Why not utilize it?
Right. No, I mean, and teams are going to keep giving him, they're going to leave him open from that range until he can prove that he can punish them from it. Like that's where the playoffs kind of not exposed to like Adebayo. It's not like a Ben Simmons thing where he's like not useful in the playoffs, but that, you know, when teams can game plan for your specific weaknesses and you have certain tendencies, like I am not going to take many jump shots. Yeah, teams are going to leave you open until you start taking and making those jump shots. So yeah, I think that's an area in which Bam can improve. I think a lot of probably the biggest X factor for Miami this year is Tyler Herro, who you talked about earlier. Yep. You know, he comes off of that playoff run in the run to the finals where he looks like just an absolute superstar in the making. And then last year, like he improved a little bit. Like he went from 13.5 points to 15.1. His efficiency went from 42.8% to 43.9%. 3-point shooting went down a little bit. Didn't take the leap that I think a lot of people were expecting out of him. And it seems like the perception of him is slightly down relative to the upside that he still has. So I think seeing if Tyler Herro takes that leap, the leap that a lot of people expected him to take last year, if he takes it this year, I feel a lot better about Miami and their chances of coming out of the East, because he could be that either microwave scorer off the bench, or as we talked about, if he's playing with Jimmy, Bam, Kyle, Duncan, like I don't know how you guard that lineup if Tyler Herro is hitting like we saw in the playoffs in 2020.
So let's just wrap up with this, because I have a question for you, and because you just touched on it. Now, I'm one of those people who think that the initial hype, the initial hype machine around Tyler Herro was a little bit too far gone, and I don't think it was fair to him. Like people started saying that they wouldn't even trade him for James Harden. Yeah. Like, can we agree that while we both realize that he can get a lot better than what he already is because he's only 21? There's also a ceiling. Like he's not going to be the new Luka or James Harden or anything of that sort. Like he's going to be better than what he is now, but it isn't like he's going to be an all-NBA first teamer.
Yeah, I mean, well, he needs to get better creating off the dribble for himself. That's that's kind of the key for any guard. How well can you create off the dribble for yourself? Tyler Herro isn't great at it yet. I'm sure that is something that he's, I think this year is going to be really interesting in particular because last year, he plays in the finals until mid-October. Mm-hmm. And then the season starts again Christmas Day or whatever, right before. So it's a 2-month off season. That's his first year in the league. He doesn't even know when the season. So it's like he didn't have that typical 3, 4, 5 month off season to like go with whatever trainer is going to post Instagram highlights of you. And, like he's had his first real NBA off season where he could do the skill development work that we see a lot of these young guys doing. So I do wonder if Tyler Herro comes back and is much better, has a much tighter handle, is able to create off the dribble for himself more. Like, I'm with you. I don't think he's like the next Devin Booker, the next Luka or whatever, but there's still a lot of untapped upside in him.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying temper expectations. I don't think it's fair. Like, he was drafted 13th overall back in 2019. Like, there's a reason he was drafted 13th. If he came in with, with Luka hype or whatever, he would have gone a lot higher. I just don't think it's fair to put Herro in that position where, like, you're kind of looked at as a bust if you don't turn into James Harden. I don't think that's proper. I think that's faulty logic, and that's putting something on him that he doesn't deserve. Yeah.
Well, I think, Devin Booker was also drafted 13th out of Kentucky. I think Miami was hoping that Herro would follow in that Booker mold, and Herro has even said he modeled his game after Devin Booker. So I do think maybe he turns into poor man's Devin Booker, in which case that's still a really good player. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade Tyler Herro for James Harden stuff is always stupid. But like every fan base does that. I guarantee you can go back and there was like, I wouldn't trade Markelle Fultz for Kawhi Leonard and stuff.
Well, the Booker thing though, I mean, Booker was always able to get to the free throw line. That is a game changer. I mean, honestly, I hate to be so simplistic, but if you're a perimeter player whose primary skill set is scoring the basketball and you want to get to like an elite place, getting to the free throw line is freaking important. Like there's just no way around it. Yeah. And like the more players we're seeing who are gravitating towards the 3-point line and just completely disregarding the free throw line, like Tyler Herro has a career free throw shooting average of two attempts per game.
Yeah.
So basically he gets to the line like one shooting foul one time a game. Like, that's not enough. Like that is a recipe for not, getting to that level that you want to be. If he next year comes in or this year comes in and like takes 7 free throws per game, cool, awesome. Then we can talk about Devin Booker.
Yeah.